some new questions about our economy today. Former White House advisor Austin Goolsbee defending the president's promises on jobs and debt, claiming outside factors contributed to the economic standstill in a fiery exchange with our own Sean Hannity. Take a listen.
Now, we've accumulated more debt than any president in a shorter period of time under President Obama. The truth is, I have the latest Bureau of Labor statistics. We've lost 2.5 million jobs since his stimulus under Obama's plan. He said he would cut the debt in half. His administration said they'd keep unemployment below 8%. You were part of this. What went wrong?
Well, respectfully, Sean, I'd say you're mixing up the time frame there. In the year 2010, which is when most of the clips when the president was saying we were starting to grow again, we were growing. And over that 17 months, we added 2.5 million jobs. Now, at the beginning of this year, we get earthquakes, tsunamis, revolutions in the Middle East, European financial crises. Now they even got earthquakes outside of Washington, D.C. I mean, we've had a series of things that have put some heavy blows and slowed the economy back down again.
Wait, hang on a second.
But I think it's a little, I don't think you want to confuse something that is
I'm just
way
giving
down
you,
and
I
starting
read from
to
the
crawl
Bureau
out from
of Labor Statistics. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, President Barack Obama has lost 2.4 million jobs since his stimulus plan. That's the net result. He said he was going to create millions of jobs. He said he'd cut the deficit in half. He said unemployment would stay below 8%. Those were promises he made as a candidate, none of which came true. Are you actually going to make the case that the Arab Spring and the Japanese earthquake it had a more significant economic impact than, say, 9/11 on the economy or Katrina on the economy?
Mr. Goolsbee went on to suggest that they did lead to a hike in gas prices here in the United States. So can the president's promises be used against him in the way we saw with George H.W. Bush? Joining me now, syndicated radio talk show hosts Leslie Marshall and Lars Larson. Leslie's also a Fox News contributor. That's the question, Leslie, is, the President Obama, he's on tape saying these things. He's going to cut the deficit, cut the debt in half, that he's going to keep unemployment below 8%, that projection that his administration came out with, especially if they passed a stimulus, they promised we'd never be at this level that we're at now. And Austin Goolsbee, to his credit, goes on Hannity to say, look, let me contextualize those things for you. Mm-hmm. But does that change the fact that this can be used in a clever way, in an ad against President Obama, much as the no new taxes read my lips thing was used against H.W. Bush?
Well, obviously, Megan, regardless, whether a president's a Democrat or Republican, the other side is going to use whatever they can, especially when politicians make predictions. I would never run for president, but if I did, I would say, this is the plan I have. Then again, there might be some acts of God, which tsunamis, earthquakes, hurricanes coming up the coast right now. I hope all of you will be safe there at Fox, Megan, that the president didn't expect. During the Bush administration, as well as the Obama administration, as Goolsbee pointed out, when you have gas at $4 a gallon, that is going to affect the economy negatively. And additionally, when you have a Congress, both sides, that are not willing to budge one bit, and when politics becomes more important than the bottom line, literally.
Lars, is it that, or is it, as Hannity was contending, just excessive spending?
No, Sean's absolutely right. The numbers have been there. We've been talking about them for months. The net result is down 2 million jobs. The president's policy on jobs is like Hurricane Irene. It blows and it leaves wreckage in all directions. It's a problem. The president doesn't seem to understand that he can claim 2 million jobs gained, but if you lose 4 million at the same time, Mr. President, maybe they didn't teach this at the Ivy League school you went to.
But Lars, his defense is he's stemming the tide. He's stopping. It would have been worse without his policies.
Well, I know, I understand. He's suggesting that if I hadn't been here, that things would have been even worse than they are now. That isn't helping America. We're down 2 million jobs, and the GDP report now out, 1% growth. That's not going to replace the jobs either, and his policies are a failure. This is a problem that the president doesn't seem to understand. He could change his EPA policies, regulatory policies. He could give America some confidence and some faith. Right now, all he's done is thrown everything up in the air. If you're a business owner and you want to expand, you have to worry about energy costs going up because the president wants them to, regulatory costs going up, and health care is a complete question mark.
Leslie, he talked about
if you're in that environment.
I want to get to Leslie. He talked about cutting the debt in half. This week it came out that he's added now about $4 trillion to our debt, and which was a number that he criticized President Bush for severely when he was running for office. I mean, how can President Obama come back to the American people now and talk in any way about being fiscally cautious and focused on debt reduction?
Well, Megyn, quite frankly, that is a challenge and a struggle for him or any president. I think one thing we know, as whether you're a president or a congressional member, it's one thing to say what you're going to do when you want the job, but then when you get in, having the job and what you need to do to keep the country, or the world in this case, going is a whole different story.
That's true, but that didn't work for George H.W. Bush. You know, he tried to say, look, things change. That what happened to him? Booted out of office.
That's true, but the American people need to make a choice. And the choice is, do we want to switch, as we keep doing, every time somebody doesn't own up to every promise 100%? And I would say this for a Republican as well as a Democrat. We need to look at, I think, as business owners do, the entire picture. He created jobs, Lars, before the economy went south due to outside factors, acts of God that he did not control. And in addition to that,
the American people need for eating your homework.
Okay.
No, we're not blaming the tsunami.
Gotta leave it at that.
We have to look at. Okay.
It's a good line. We'll leave it at that, you guys. Thank you both, Leslie and Lars. All the best to you.
Thanks, Megyn.
Well, Hurricane Irene is barreling up the eastern seaboard.